This is Anthony. Just a normal fellow going about his mundane existence as video editor. Didn't quite have time to iron that shirt today, eh, Anthony? I mean, come on, show a little bit of effort. This is your passion project after all. So there he sits, in his wrinkled button-up, drinking his stale coffee, wondering just how he's going to review such a weird game. But then, a thought occurs to him. Why do I hear a voice in my head? And why is the accent so terrible? Am I incapable of imagining a voice with a proper accent? Hey! I'll have you know this is my real... Actually, you know what? Screw it. We're done. Turn it off. Pull the plug. The Stanley Parable isn't really concerned with being a game in the traditional sense. There isn't any combat, you don't have any puzzles to solve, and there isn't a single collectible to be found. Hell, there isn't even a jump button. Instead, the Stanley Parable is primarily focused on two things. The first is comedy, and it's actually quite good at being funny. More often than not, I found myself laughing at the jokes. A great deal of the comedy comes from the conflict between the player and the narrator, as you're constantly at odds with one another.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door. All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you.
The narrator will often throw out one-liners and tidbits about Stanley, the boring office drone, in mocking fashion. Other times, he will directly make fun of your choices, such as an inability to follow his directions, thus screwing him over and forcing him to go off-script.
That's her, Stanley. You need... Oh, no, you can't... Did you just unplug the phone? No, that wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that?
Secondly, the Stanley Parable is very focused on being a meta experience. It constantly breaks the player's expectations by absolutely shattering the reality it creates. Honestly, it's pretty difficult to describe just how ridiculously wacky and reality-breaking this game is. But when you find yourself in an inside, behind-the-scenes / making-of museum of the game you're currently playing, as if you were a person that was aware of the game's development, instead of the main character of said game, you'll probably start to understand what I mean. The Stanley Parable really prides itself on breaking the fourth wall, and does so quite often.
Ah, welcome back. You may have noticed that this room has begun to deteriorate as a result of narrative contradiction. But not to worry. Now that you're properly informed on good decision-making, we're going to revisit a choice you made just a few minutes ago and see what the correct thing to do would have been. This way, please.
Perhaps the narrator will randomly decide that you're unhappy with the way the game's unfolding, and transport you directly into Minecraft.
Well, Stanley, is this any better? At last, the one thing you've always desired. A game I had absolutely nothing to do with. But is it enough? Tell me that, Stanley. Will it ever be enough?
Or maybe he'll transport you into Portal.
Yes! I don't even know what this game is, but I love it.
Or maybe the game will decide that you're stuck inside of a dream, and you'll start hallucinating stars and flying around.
And began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid?
The gameplay is extremely simple. You walk around and try to discover the different endings. That's it. That's the whole game. Once in a blue moon, you might have to input a code on a keypad or interact with an object in some way. But by large, all you'll be doing is walking around and listening to the narrator. And even though the game is extremely short, it'll only take around 2 hours to see all of the endings, I found that it got a bit boring even before that. A lot of the time you're simply stuck standing in place waiting for the narrator to finish his speech.
Here in this pile of rubbish, with you, who thought you were so clever. Now look where we are. My entire game is destroyed. It was the only thing in the world that was mine, and you've run it into the ground.
And, I don't know, that's not as fun as most games I play. However, don't get me wrong here. There are a lot of laughs to be had, and seeing all the crazy nonsense in this game throws at you is pretty fun. But, at the same time, it also made me crave for more interactivity. The fact that I couldn't grab a coffee mug, pull a painting off a wall, or even jump on top of a box really made me feel like this is less of a game and more like a lifeless simulation on the rails or a movie. It's just not what you expect from a video game. My verdict: positive. One of a kind, unique experience. You'll never play another game like this, trust me. Positive. Plenty of laughs to be had. Positive. Extremely meta concept. This is quite possibly the most meta game ever created. Positive. Great narration. Negative. Linear experience. Negative. Barely any interactivity with the world. Negative. Very short. The Stanley Parable is a one-of-a-kind walking simulator that focuses on annihilating your expectations of what a game should be. And most of the time it does it in a delightfully funny way. However, the objective of merely discovering new endings is a bit too simple, and the inability to interact with objects makes the world feel a little bit lifeless and kind of static. However, if you give the Stanley Parable a chance, you'll surely find a clever experience that you're unlikely to get anywhere else. That's why I'm giving the game a final score of 7 out of 10. Thanks for watching.